Picture this. You sit down after a long day, pull out your phone, and begin to scroll. Headlines fly past like sparks in a dry forest. Every story feels tailor-made to confirm your beliefs. Every video echoes what you already think. The algorithm has studied you. It knows what makes your blood boil, what keeps you nodding in agreement, what drags your finger back for just one more scroll. At first, it feels good. There's comfort in agreement, strength in certainty. But then comes the inevitable collision, a headline from the other side, a video that mocks your values, a post that drips with arrogance. Suddenly, you feel your chest tightening and your pulse quickens. Outrage surges through your veins. You tell yourself it's righteous anger, but is it? Or is it the same poison that is consuming the world around us? This is no accident. Outrage has been engineered. Division has been monetized. Anger has become the fuel of politics, the currency of media, the pulse of social life. If this seems modern, it's only because history repeats itself. Travel back to the Roman Forum in the 1st century BC. Senators in shining white togas gather under marble columns. Citizens crowd the steps, listening to passionate speeches. Voices rise, accusations fly. What once were debates now sound like fights. The Republic, once a symbol of order and reason, wavers on the brink. Rival factions no longer debate. They plot. Crowds flood the streets, disrupting gatherings. Political foes hire gangs to threaten voters. The Senate turns into a battleground for anger. And then, the inevitable. Knives flash under togas. Julius Caesar falls at the foot of Pompey's statue, betrayed by men he once called friends. His assassination doesn't save the Republic. It destroys it. What began as a disagreement ends in daggers. The Republic collapses into civil war, birthing emperors who rule by power, not persuasion. Rome's story is not distant history. It is a mirror. They lived in marble forums. We live in digital ones. The mobs now gather online, but the spirit is the same. Long before Rome, Israel bore the scars of division. After Solomon's reign, the kingdom split into two, Israel in the north, Judah in the south. Brothers became enemies. The prophets wept as leaders pursued idols and injustice instead of faith and unity. The Book of Kings reads like a tragic cycle. One ruler rises with promise, only to be consumed by pride or fear. The people fracture further. Foreign powers exploit the weakness. Division makes them vulnerable, and exile follows. The Bible doesn't sanitize this history. It shows us plainly. A divided kingdom cannot stand. Proverbs 29:11 warns, "Fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end." But generation after generation, leaders gave vent to rage, and the people paid the price. And then came Jesus, born into an occupied land already torn by division. Zealots plotted a revolt. Pharisees fought Sadducees. Taxes crushed the poor. Rome ruled with the sword. Into this chaos, Jesus taught, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." Matthew 5:9. His words were not abstract theology. They were survival instructions for a people choking on division. When he stood before Pilate, the scene was the climax of political rage. Religious leaders cried out for blood. Crowds shouted in fury. Pilate washed his hands, powerless to stop the mob. The Son of God was crucified not only by Rome's power, but by Israel's division. Fast forward 2,000 years. The marble columns of Rome stand in ruins. The temple stones of Jerusalem are scattered. But the spirit of division stays strong. We see it in our politics. Red versus blue, left versus right. We see it in our churches, denominations splitting, pulpits turned into platforms for outrage. We see it in our homes, family gatherings fractured by debates that spiral out of control. Social media has made division profitable. Outrage spreads faster than facts. Anger gets more clicks than empathy. Entire industries are built on keeping us mad, keeping us suspicious, keeping us divided. And the results? communities fractured, friendships are broken, nations paralyzed, trust evaporates. Jesus' words echo louder than ever. Every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and every household divided against itself will not stand. Matthew 12:25. We don't need to imagine the consequences. We are living them. Why is division so destructive? Because it doesn't just fracture nations, it corrodes souls. Seneca, in his treatise on anger, called anger a form of temporary madness. Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Anger blinds us. It turns friends into enemies, truth into weapons, justice into vengeance. The Bible agrees. James 1:20 warns, human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Outrage may mobilize, but it cannot heal. Anger may win elections, but it cannot build nations. Rage may feel powerful, but it leaves us powerless to love. The Stoics taught that the actual battlefield is within. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. Our real enemy is not the other party, the other tribe, the other voice. It is our inability to master our own responses." Scripture describes it as sin, the tendency to prioritize ourselves, our tribe, and our fears over God and our neighbor. When sin dominates, violence follows. Cain killed Abel not because of policy, but because of jealousy, fear, and division. Humanity hasn't changed much since then. Look at the pattern. Rome. The forum burned with factional rage. Israel. The kingdom collapsed into division. Today, social media mobs fuel outrage and distrust. Different eras, same fire. Division consumes because it is contagious. One person vents rage, another matches it, and soon the crowd burns. Entire societies go up in flames. And yet, there is hope. The Stoics believed reason could restrain the fire. The scriptures reveal that love can quench it. Both call us to the same conclusion. We cannot let division define us. So, where does this leave us? This book is not about choosing sides. It is about choosing wisdom over madness, peace over anger, restraint over outrage. It is about refusing to become what we despise. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the best way of avenging yourself is not to become like the wrongdoer. Jesus went further. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Matthew 5:44. The Stoics urge self-mastery. Scripture calls for surrender to God. Together, they demand transformation. The question is whether we will listen or whether we will be consumed by the same fire that destroyed Rome and scattered Israel. Outrage is engineered to keep you hooked. Have you noticed its grip on you? When was the last time you felt anger rise while reading the news or scrolling social media? How did you respond? History doesn't just repeat itself, it warns us. What parallels do you see between the divisions of Rome, Israel, and our own nation today? The most brutal battles are fought not on battlefields, but within the human heart. Which feels harder? Mastering your own anger or loving your enemy? Why? Division always starts close to home before it starts to fracture nations. If Jesus is correct that a house divided cannot stand, what divisions in your own home, workplace, or community need healing? Peacemaking begins with one small, defiant choice to resist the cycle. What small step can you take this week to be a peacemaker instead of a participant in the outrage cycle?